الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وأيضا يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وأيضا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وثم ضلالة في النار وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with another Friday for us to wake up and worship Him. And on this Yawm al-Jummah, we know that it is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for us to read Surah Al-Kahf. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us that the person who reads Surah Al-Kahf on Friday will have a nur, will have a light that will shine from that Friday all the way into the next Friday. And today, inshallah, I want to talk about a story that we find in the end of Surah Al-Kahf. Because if we were to talk about all of the lessons and the stories of Surah Al-Kahf, we would be here until next Friday. But subhanAllah, there's so much to learn from this surah. And a common thing with surahs like Surah Al-Kahf, Surah Al-Mulk, Surah Al-Ma'idah, all of these surahs are from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where we find that he read these surahs on a daily. And inshallah, I want us to realize what is one point that we can take away from this surah. Instead of just reading the Arabic, we should also understand the meaning of what we're reading. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he was giving a khutbah to his people, and he said in his khutbah, I am the most knowledgeable of all people in the world. This is Prophet Musa alayhi salam, right? I think he has the right to say that. He's the one who communicated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, the only prophet to ever do this. He's the one who received the Torah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had every right to make this claim. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, during this moment, He sent down Angel Jibreel. And Angel Jibreel told Prophet Musa alayhi salam, there is somebody alive in this world right now who is more knowledgeable than you, who is more wise than you. And maybe you should go and you should learn from him. And that this person had some sort of knowledge that Prophet Musa alayhi salam did not have. So Prophet Musa alayhi salam asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him permission to go and travel and meet this man and seek knowledge from him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him in the Quran that you will find him in a place where you are getting ready to eat, the fish that you and your servant have got ready to prepare, and then the fish magically disappears. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Quran that Prophet Musa alayhi salam said, we will not stop until we reach the junction of two seas, even if I travel for ages. One point that we can take away from this is that Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when he realized that he needed to go on this journey to learn this knowledge that he didn't have, it didn't matter what came in his way, he was going to learn it. Didn't matter if he traveled, didn't matter if he worked on it for ages. What is our own journey to knowledge? Do we even have a journey to knowledge? Are we trying to increase our knowledge every single day? Whether it be Islamic or whether it be of this dunya. But the most important would be of the stories of the prophets or the tafsir of the Quran. So maybe we should reflect on this. Then Musa and his servant, they finally came across the man who we call Khidr. Some narrations say that this man's name was Khidr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that Khidr was a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted mercy and enlightened him ilman from us, knowledge from our own. And later down the story we will understand that no human has this knowledge except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to them. And just to remind us in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that Khidr is a servant himself. He's not some angel, he's not some other being that's not human. He's a servant, he's a human as well. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just blessed him with this ilm that we'll understand later inshallah. So then Musa alayhi salam, he asks Khidr, can I go on this journey with you to learn from you? And Khidr says a beautiful ayah. He says, so فَوَجَدَ عَبَدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again is saying that this knowledge that Khidr has is from us. قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا. Can I follow you for you to علمني, for you to teach me the right guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you? And Khidr tells him, قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. Indeed, with me, you will never be able to have patience. وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا. This is a beautiful ayah. And how can you have patience for what you do not encompass in knowledge? What this means is that how can you have patience for stuff that is beyond your knowledge, right? And then Musa alayhi salam says, قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا. You will find me inshallah patient, and I will not disobey you in any of your orders. And then Khidr tells him, if you follow me, do not ask me about anything until I make it, the knowledge of this present to you. Pretty much until I answer your questions or I explain it to you without you even having to ask. Okay? So now alhamdulillah, we are on the journey with Musa and Khidr, and they first set out on a trip on a boat. Okay? And they are on the boat and they're on the water. And then Khidr starts to poke holes in the boat. And Musa alayhi salam, he says in the Quran, قَالَ أَخَرَقَتَهَا لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا إِمْرًا. You're putting holes in this boat. Have you tried to put holes in this boat to drown me and you and everybody else who's on the boat? You have certainly done a wrong, grave thing. What are you doing? Right? And then Khidr responds to him and tells him, قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعَيَ صَبْرًا. Right? He said it. Did I not say to you previously that you will not have enough patience for this? Then Musa alayhi salam says a beautiful ayah, and I want us all to remember this. قَالَ لَا تُؤَاخِذْنِي بِمَا نَسِيتُ. Do not blame me for what I have forgotten. وَلَا تُرْهِقَنِي مِنْ أَمْرِي عُسْرًا. And do not cover me or do not make it difficult for me with this affair that's going on. Like, just be easy on me. Don't be too hard on me. And this is a beautiful ayah beautiful dua that we can say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Ya Allah, do not blame me for what I have forgotten. I know that I shouldn't have done that sin, but I fell into it. Ya Allah, forgive me, and don't be too hard on me because I made this mistake, right? But Musa alayhi salam is saying this to Khidr because of how bad he wants this knowledge. Then they go on to the second part of the story, and Musa and Khidr, they found a boy, but now Khidr, he just kills the boy. Ya Allah. He just kills the boy. And then Musa alayhi salam says to him, قَالَ أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيًّا. Have you killed a pure soul? بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. Have you killed a pure soul who didn't kill anybody else? Again, you have done a grave wrong thing. What are you doing? Musa doesn't understand this. What if we're in the shoes of Musa right now, alayhi salam, and we see that a man in front of us just killed this guy out of nowhere? Doesn't make sense. قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. One more time. Did I not tell you that you're not going to be patient enough for this? Then Musa alayhi salam says, قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني. If I ask you about anything after this, we're not going to be friends anymore. I'm not going to be your companion anymore. قد بلغت من لدني عذرا. You have obtained from me an excuse to tell me that's it. Right? That's it. We're not going to be, I can't be your companion anymore. Now, the last part, all of this is not making sense. And Musa and Khidr, they traveled together to a town, and they asked these people for hospitality and food and all this, right? They're travelers, and they come to this town and they're asking for some food and some hospitality. But these people tell them, no, they're just stubborn. They don't want to give them food, they don't want to give them hospitality, whatever. Then Musa and Khidr find a wall that is about to collapse. So Khidr built the wall up again and he restored it. And then Musa alayhi salam asked him, if you wanted, maybe you could have fixed the wall for a payment, right? We'll fix the wall for you and you give us some food, you give us some hospitality. It makes sense, right? But this was again another objection to the ilm, to the knowledge of Khidr, right? So Khidr said, that's it. قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك. This is the parting between me and you. But now, سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. But since we are parting, I will explain to you what you could not have patience for. Okay? So now, the first part of the story, where Khidr was breaking the boat, Khidr understood that the king that was in charge of this land, right, he was going on to war. He was going to war. And he needed all of the boats that were in perfect condition. Okay? So, if this king came and he saw that this boat was in perfect condition, he would have taken the boat of these people and they would have had no way to make money. This is their way of making money, right? The same way that all of us have our own jobs, this was their job. This was their way of making money. So Khidr, from his ilm, from his knowledge, he understood what's better, a broken boat or no boat, right? Then, the second story, as for the boy, this boy's parents, they were kafir, they were disbelievers. And Khidr and the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that this boy would be I'm sorry. The parents' boys were believers, okay? They were mu'mineen, they were believers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feared that this boy would overburden them and actually turn them away from Islam, turn them to being a kafir, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He intended that He would substitute this boy with another boy who's better in purity and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the rahmah, right? So again, the Khidr, the ilm of Khidr, it didn't make sense in this moment, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better. Then the last story, this wall, it had treasure underneath it. And that treasure belonged to two orphan boys that lived in that city. So, their father had been righteous, but he passed away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted that wall to be fixed because if it fell, these greedy people that couldn't even feed Musa and Khidr would have definitely taken that treasure away, right? So Khidr again understood that if we fix this wall, the rizq of these two orphan boys will inshallah reach them. And then Khidr tells him again, this is the understanding of what you could not be patient about. So now, let me ask you all a question. Will we have a Khidr in our lifetime? No, we won't, right? Prophet Musa alayhi salam, all of these things that were happening in front of him, in front of his eyes, they were not making sense. Because of the ilm that Khidr had, he understood it and it made sense to him. But now how many times in our life do we see that something happens and it doesn't make sense in that moment, but maybe 5 years down the line we look back and we're like, Ya Allah, you were right. Ya Allah, I should have trusted you. Because maybe my eyes are deceiving me, right? But the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is better than anything. This is a journey that Prophet Musa alayhi salam, only he could go on. We won't have a Khidr who will explain to us why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thought that it was the time for that loved one to leave us, for that loved one to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or it was the time for us to lose that job, or not even get into the job that we applied for, or not get into the college that we applied for, or become sick when we were healthy, right? Sometimes we don't understand why these things happen to us. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be able to tell us, inshaAllah, when we all meet Him in Jannah. And we can ask Him, Ya Allah, why did this happen? Why did this happen? But maybe the answer in itself, inshaAllah, when we all reach to Jannah, us reaching to Jannah was the answer, right? Or is the answer, inshaAllah. That whatever happens in our life happens for a reason. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might do something that looks bad for us, but it's actually good for us. And the things that we think are good for us might actually be bad for us. I want you all to remember this ayah, and I will mention it in the second part of the khutbah. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows and you all do not know. If you can leave this khutbah with one ayah, one phrase, it is this ayah. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows and you all do not know. So now, this ayah, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows and I do not know. How do I implement this ayah when I am going through a calamity? And when I'm in that calamity, all I see and all I hear is the pain and the anger that thing that happened is causing me, right? How do I remember this ayah? You teach yourself and you remind yourself that you are the passenger and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is driving, right? Who is the planner of all plans? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's okay because Prophet Musa alayhi salam, even himself, he could not see past what was in front of him. So it's okay if we can't do it ourselves. Don't be too hard on yourself. But it is okay for it to be difficult, for us to be patient with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for us. It's okay for us not to understand, but we should try to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would never put us in a position that will harm us, even if it looks like it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always wants good for us, and it is because of our limited knowledge that something bad will look good and something good will look bad. That calamity that comes out of nowhere, and it makes you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? There is some good behind it, whether you see it or not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sees. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sees, He hears, He knows it all. Trust Him. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants what's best for us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have the eyes of Iman and allow ourselves to remember the story of Musa and Khidr when we are tested in this life. And for us to remember to relax. Don't worry. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is driving. Do what you can. Do what you need to do. Right? Don't just sit and expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you whatever is meant for you. No, you have to go and put the work in. But once you put that work in, don't stress too much. Tie your camel and leave whatever comes after that up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if it comes, Bismillah. If it goes, Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to truly believe in this. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. I want to recite the full ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, because the beginning of this ayah pretty much summarizes the entire khutbah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم. Perhaps you dislike something which is good for you. وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو خير لكم. وهو شر لكم. اسمح لي. وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو شر لكم وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم. And perhaps you like something which is bad for you. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And you do not know. It looked like Khidr was breaking the boat for a people who did nothing to him. It looked like Khidr took the life of an innocent boy who didn't do anything. It looked like Khidr was helping a people who were doing him wrong. But behind all of this is the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which even though it looked bad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had something good planned for every single person in each of these three stories. That it benefited the poor people who owned the boat, it benefited the parents of the boys, it benefited the two orphan boys. Have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan, and inshallah that will ease your stress. All of us are stressed, especially people my age in college trying to figure out, what do I do? What am I gonna work as, right? It's so cloudy looking in the future. You're trying to see, what do I do? It doesn't look clear, right? Trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your Islam in every single step that you take towards your goal, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what's best for you, so that if that thing that you think is good for you comes, alhamdulillah. But if it doesn't, fiha khair, right? It has good in it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows and we all do not know. And please the one who is in control of the outcome of that plan, right? We plan, we try to make the perfect plan, 1, 2, 3, 4, with all the steps and everything. But who is the planner of all plans? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And alhamdulillah that we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if that's all we have, then that is all we will ever need. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to increase our love for Him and put our trust in Him to help us get through whatever difficulty we have, and allow us all to reach Jannatul Firdaus together and see His beautiful face one day inshallah, and look back at this dunya and say, alhamdulillah that I was patient. It'll all be worth it on that day. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the situation for our brothers and sisters who are struggling all over the world, who are going through injustices, who are really showing tawakkul and patience in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تسمعون أقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.